Welcome to Heartland for Children's Let's Talk About It podcast, where we provide education and resources for family matters in Polk, Highlands, and Hardee counties. We're so glad that you've joined us. So now, let's talk about it.
Hi, and welcome to Heartland for Children's Let's Talk About It podcast. My name is Natalia Clemens, and I am the Community Engagement Specialist here at Heartland for Children. And I am here with Carolyn Burnett, but I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Yes, I'm Carolyn Burnett. I am the Reading Pals Program Manager for United Way of Central Florida.
Well, we are so excited to have you here. We have heard so much. We have partnered with you. We're excited about what you're doing in the community with Reading Pals. And so we would just want to unpack a little bit about the history of Reading Pals, what it's doing in our community. But first, I want to get to know you. So How did you get started, with Reading Pals United Way? Tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay, well, I moved here about 6 years ago, and I have had 40 years of experience in education, professionally at all levels, and in volunteering. I've actually volunteered for Reading Pals before I worked with Reading Pals.
Wonderful.
And so I have a heart for literacy and experiential education. I believe in what Reading Pals does. And so that's how when the job came available, I jumped at the chance to be able to be part of this wonderful program.
I love that. So tell us about Reading Pals. What is it? What can we expect from it? What do you guys do?
Okay. Well, Reading Pals go into the classrooms, kindergarten classrooms, one day or more, if they'd like, for an hour a week throughout the school year. And they work with two kindergartners for a half an hour, and then another two kindergartners for a half an hour. They work with the same kindergartners throughout the year to create a relationship. And those kindergartners actually, they're Monday, Wednesday groups, and then there are Tuesday, Thursday groups. So they work with a volunteer 2 days a week for half an hour, because more than that for a kindergarten is really too much.
Volunteer, a person in our community signs up to come. Obviously there's background checks and all sort of requirements before entering schools, but then they come in and they just help read with kindergartners. Is that the idea?
Yes, and there is a program, though, that we provide, and we do provide training. There's a 2-hour training before you go in, and yes, indeed, there is a background check through Polk County Schools. So all of that is done before a volunteer goes into the classroom. So
why do we need this?
We need this because over 50%, actually, statistics since COVID show that almost 60% of our kindergartners in Polk County are not prepared to thrive in school.
60%, 6 out of 10 kids.
Almost 60%. Yeah, wow. It's actually was 41% were ready. Wow. So that means 59% are not. So in Polk County, there are 10% of the schools within the state that are lower than that, and the average for the state is 50%. So we have a need in our state.
So what does that mean when a child isn't prepared in literacy? What does that mean for their future?
Reading is the number one indicator of life and academic success. Wow. So it means that they are a child who starts behind stays behind. So they are really going to struggle throughout. And of course, reading is so valuable for every part of life. So it's not just the literacy to get through school, but it's the literacy to excel in life.
Gotcha. That's incredible. So what does it mean, just to go back to the volunteering part of Reading Pals? So let's say I'm a person in our community that wants to sign up. What do I do?
You can do several things. You can call United Way of Central Florida, and you can ask for me, Carolyn Burnett, and they will connect you with me. Or you can go on to our website, which is uwcf.org/Reading Pals, and you will find an application there, and you can fill out the application and email it to me, and we'll get you started.
Wonderful.
We are in 14 schools and 59 classrooms when we're fully staffed. COVID made a difference in our staffing levels, so we are still building that back up. But we are going to keep adding volunteers until we are fully staffed. When fully staffed, we will have 236 volunteers.
Oh, wow.
And we will be serving 472 students. Right now, we have 110 active volunteers as of December, and there are more actually who have been trained, but for one reason or another are not able to be in the classroom at this moment. But we have served 320 students. Over the 10 years of Reading Pals, over 3,000 students have been served, and our statistics show that they have shown measurable increases by third grade in their literacy rates.
It really is important to teach children literacy and reading and a love for reading at a very early age.
Yes, and that is the other piece to Reading Pals. Because we create that connection, we then allow them to see that reading can be fun, and that it isn't something that's just a chore. And that's our goal as well, because we know that that is what is going to create lifelong readers, and that's our true goal.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Because I know that Reading Pals, you guys have different packages and bundles and creative ways that you reach out to kids. So how do you do that?
Well, we do that first through creating that connection, and our volunteers will tell you it's a win-win. I've had many volunteers send me emails thanking us for this opportunity for them. One of our board members is actually a Reading Pal, and he came to me and he said, "Carolyn, I'm a grandfather, and I knew what this would do for the children. I had no idea what this would do for me."
Wow.
And so it was just it's just a total win-win. But we do provide other opportunities as well, because we know that winter break and summer break are times where the students read less and have less opportunity to read. We send home book bundles. We have a book bundle here that actually went out for our winter break this year, and we send out books and for them to have and keep. So this isn't something that has to come back. It is something that goes into their homes to keep. Many of these children aren't the ones who'll be able to buy books at the Scholastic book fairs or other things. So this allows them to have books in their home that they will be able to read and to share with their family.
And what kind of books are we talking about?
They're books at their level. The books that went home for the winter break were books, many of them were books that they had already read over the semester, so that then they were able to share them and to have some knowledge of those books to be able to share. Our books that will be going home for the summer will be a little bit different, and we send home an activity guide for the parents to be able to have, so that they can have fun activities
So
that they
can
do.
Participate
so
too.
that they participate as well. That is our goal, that everyone participates in this opportunity.
Wonderful. Carolyn, tell me a little bit more about the history of Reading Pals.
Well, we have been doing Reading Pals for 10 years with United Way of Central Florida. It was the heart of Carol Jenkins Burnett and her husband Barney. I understand that Carol would go to conferences and she would come back with wonderful ideas. And this was one of those where she had gone to a conference. She came back and she saw that this would affect literacy within Florida. And so she shared that idea. The children's movement is now the management, has always been the managing group for Reading Pals. And so that is how we began, and it has been going ever since for that time. We are now in 15 different locations throughout the state of Florida. Our program, I'm proud to say, is one of the top 3 in the state, and we hope to keep growing and making that, pushing that up even further. Not because we want to be number 1 in state, but really we know that when we are doing that, we're making difference for more children, and that is our ultimate goal.
So I was recently at a conference where there was someone who spoke on the importance of literacy. And the example that they used is that they gave us all books that had a ton of the words whited out. So we were only able to read a few words from that sentence. And the example, the reason why she was doing that, so that we could feel what it feels like to be, a young child, a student, just while the rest of the class is able to read an entire sentence, what it would feel like not to know or understand these words. And that a lot of our children, particularly in Polk County, they don't have that level of understanding of all those words. They don't know that many words. Have you seen that? What do you guys do to address that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's absolutely true. And I actually remember a similar activity when I was in school. And our professor gave us something that had just gibberish words. And we had to try to, well, they weren't really gibberish. They meant something, but we had no idea. But we couldn't decipher it. So there are lots of ways to address that. But when we are reading with the children and they are learning in the classroom, they can start to identify words that they are learning. But even just hearing the how words are shared in books, being able to just pull all of that together is a wonderful way to continue the literacy process. Literacy isn't something that starts that we learn right now and then it stops. It is something that is on a continuum. So I too was a child who struggled with reading, and it is still something that I work through, and I've had to learn strategies to work through that. So it is an ongoing thing for these students, and sometimes it's not that they don't know the words. It's just that they read more slowly, which was my issue. I knew the words, I just didn't read as quickly as others. And if I was combined with another student who did and I couldn't keep up, I told them to go on, and I missed it. I was able to create other strategies that helped me to succeed in school. But some students do and some students don't. And that's how we come alongside and we help them. We also provide social emotional piece to our program, where we've asked teachers to give us students who may have academic need, but also who may have social emotional needs as well. And then they are able to come alongside, our volunteers are able to come alongside and to support those students. We talk a little bit in training about how to bring out the social emotional pieces within the story. How did the characters react? What were the ways that they were able to overcome that issue? So those are things that we also do in the Reading Pals program.
Gotcha. So what does training look like for a volunteer?
Training, when you come in, we have a notebook that you will receive, and we go through all of the different things, what it means to go into the classroom, and things we can do and things we can't do within the classroom. We talk about just how strategies for working with students, strategies for social emotional support. We talk about what the curriculum looks like and how to utilize that when you're in the classroom with the children. We also talk about the fact that it's a guide. It's not an absolute, because they will get to know those students, and we want them to help them in ways that they need. So it is a guide for them. So we provide that information as well as many other things that they may need to know in 2 hours.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm a volunteer. I'm getting to the school. I'm participating. What can I expect that to look like when I actually volunteer on campus?
Sure. When you walk in, you will first, of course, sign in at the desk, at the front desk, and then you will go to your classroom. In the classroom will be your kit box that you will be using, and you will probably you have to be in the classroom. You have to be within sight by background check rules. You need to be in sight of a staff member. So you will either be in the classroom, perhaps with your back to the students, the other students in the class, or you will be in a glassed-in room that might be between the classrooms, but you must be in sight of a staff member.
Okay.
And then you will read your book. You will bring it out. There will be an opening activity that you can do. There will be then reading the book, and then there are activities that you can do after you have read the book. And so that's basically how it works.
Sounds pretty easy.
And it's very easy. And you work with 2 students for half an hour, as I'd said before, and then another 2 students for another half an hour.
Wow. Okay. So, do you have any stories, success stories, or just testimonials of children who have participated in this program or families and what it's meant to them?
We've had over the years some videos with students, just saying thank you, families who have said thank you. One of our volunteers had a number of letters. Our volunteers are usually the ones who get the letters, the thank you letters and what it means. And I had one volunteer last year who came to me and said, it's just been so wonderful, and these families have been so appreciative of what I have been able to do as I've been working with the students. So a lot of times it comes to us that way through the volunteers who share. And then we have an appreciation event at the end of the year for all of our volunteers, for the school personnel, and I have reached out and asked for testimonials to be sent to me and stories to be sent to me that we will share at the appreciation event with everyone.
So. I love that we have this program in our community. I love that you guys are here.
Well, I think that we need to reiterate that families, it is so important that they read with their children. There's a story that I share, a couple of stories that I share. One is of a child who has about a 3-year-old child in a video who has a book in front of her, and instead of turning pages, she is swiping up on the book. So it is so important that our children learn about books and how to read books, the parts of the book, and what books can do for them. So I think that is a piece that is really important. And we would love to grow this. And I've had many schools, many people say, well, I would love to see it in this school, and I would volunteer if it was in that school. Unfortunately, with funding and all of those and just logistics, it's not possible right now. But we would love, of course, to grow it and have it be even more within the community.
So I have a question, just because I'm curious. As we are in the digital age, and we were talking about screens and how it's so prevalent, and it's just kind of that go-to for children. You've been a part of Reading Pals now for some time. Have you seen the difference with children? Is it becoming more difficult for literacy because of the rise of screen usage? Is it attention? Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening, since you guys are boots on the ground with a lot of our children who are struggling with literacy?
It is a struggle with screen time and that sort of a thing. It's also a struggle because literally a lot of our young teachers and our young families have not been in homes that read themselves. So it's something where we really need to help people to realize the value and the joy of reading. Once again, we want this to be something that's fun and that isn't a chore, because that is what will create lifelong readers. And so it is a challenge with the age that we're in, but it's not something that's insurmountable.
Right.
We can certainly make lots of inroads to the joys of reading. And reading is done online as well.
Gotcha.
But what we found is there's not quite anything like having the tactile piece of the book in your hand. Actually, statistics have shown that there is something very valuable in having actually a book in your hand and reading in that way.
So if I'm someone who maybe I'm not able to volunteer, but I love what you're doing, how do I support you?
Well, we we do need funds, and that would be reaching out to United Way of Central Florida and providing funding that way. We do have at times we do have other activities. We do book bundlings, and we do I put notebooks together and appreciation gifts together and things like that. So if somebody wanted to help in that way and not be in the classroom, there are things that they may be able to do. And again, if they just reach out to me at United Way of Central Florida, then I can see what we can do to help them in that way, to become a volunteer.
Do you ever have people donate books to you?
We have, we would need to vet those. They need to be new books, and we do have a process to make sure that they're the right level of book that we're sending home with the children. We do have other programs at United Way also where we give books away to families, so that yes, we can take books, but we have to kind of make sure that they're the right books to be giving out to the children at the ages that we're providing for.
Exactly. Well, wonderful. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for coming out and speaking with us and telling us a little bit more about Reading Pals. Like I said earlier, I'm just so excited that we have this program in our community, and I think from what it sounds like this year, a 2023 goal is really to get quite a few. What's that number of volunteers that we really want to see this year?
We need 236. What we're looking at, though, is if we have found that 80% of our volunteers returned from the past. So what we're hoping is that if we can get them boots on the ground now, we'll do training again in the summer, and then they will be ready to start right away at the beginning of the year, so that our next year will be even better than this year.
Wonderful. Okay, so you've heard it. Reading Pals is in need of volunteers, those who are just passionate about seeing our children succeed in literacy. And it sounds like it's pretty easy to get involved. So please reach out to Carolyn, the United Way, and our Reading Pals program. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Thank you for having me. So appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Heartland for Children's Let's Talk About It podcast. There is a great need for foster families who are willing to open their hearts and homes to teens, sibling groups, and children with special needs. To learn more, check out the description for resources or visit heartlandforchildren.org.